Hello, everyone. So we're back after 2 weeks. Now, every 2 weeks we have a new webinar. Today we have Bas Land. He's going to talk about the fact that dashboards are dead. Quite a statement. How to talk with your data, I guess, Gen AI. But let's see. I'm gonna leave in a couple of minutes the floor to him. I'm so sorry for keeping you waiting. We had some technical issues behind the scenes, but we're here, ready to go with a new session. Um, this one, of course, is gonna be English this time. So the usual introductory slides. So this is the session for today. Who are we? We are the Power BI User Group Italy. So we are an Italian community. Sometimes we speak in English if we have a guest who is not from Italy, who doesn't speak Italian, of course. So we talk about the data world, mainly regarding Fabric, and that means Fabric nowadays. Some years ago, it was also Azure, but no one talks about Azure anymore. So yeah, we mainly talk about Power BI, of course, the name of the group, Fabric, SQL Server, data warehouses, data modeling, data visualization, and stuff. But not only Microsoft, we have had some sessions regarding Tableau or other tools. We have these social channels. I'm gonna be sharing a couple of minutes the link to our link tree where you have all our social channels. So YouTube, for example. So this webinar is gonna be registered and will be available on our YouTube channel. We also have a Telegram group. Unfortunately, it is just in Italian. So if you have any questions regarding could be technical, it could be career, it could be, I don't know, training, something like that. You can ask for free in the group. And we members from the community, we're gonna try to answer your questions. Um, what else? Well, not tomorrow, but the 9th. So on Thursday, we're gonna have our first meetup, Torino Data Meetup here in Torino. I'm very, very happy to see you all, guys. I'm gonna be here, of course, gonna be the main host with also Ricardo and Lorenzo. That is the one who is gonna be speaking about Power Query. Very interesting. So can't wait to see you guys on Thursday in Torino. If you are maybe in Milan, it is just a matter of 50 minutes or so to come to Turin. So come and let's have a chat and maybe like a couple of beers. I don't know, some pizza. We have a GoFundMe. So in the link tree, you can donate if you want. It is not mandatory, of course. It is just if you want. We are some random guys who like to waste time helping people in the data world. So there is no big company behind the scene. We are not corporate. We just love what we do, and we really like to share our humble knowledge that we have. But some tools like StreamYard that we are using right now, they have a cost, and other tools that we use behind the scenes. So if you want to donate even €1, feel free to do it. It will be in the link tree link that I will be sharing with you guys in a couple of minutes. We have a call for speaker. It is in Sessionize. It is in the Linktree link. You will find Sessionize if you want to come to speak, either in Italian, in English, fortunately not Spanish, which is my native language, just Italian or English. For example, Bas applied to Sessionize, and that's why he's here today. This community is open to everyone, so if you want to help us with the design, or if you have some creative ideas, or you just want to help, feel free to reach out. You don't need to have a certification or whatever. You just want to help, then come to us and be part of the community. So now I'm going to leave the floor to Bas to see why the dashboards are that. Hi, Bas.
Hi, good afternoon, or buonasera. Am I,
Buonasera,
s-
that's right.
am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, yeah, perfectly.
All right, all right. I am studying a little bit of Italian actually, so I do speak three
How
or four
so?
words, I think, but definitely not enough to do this session in Italian yet. That's not something that I'm comfortable with. So thank you so
Yeah,
much for allowing me to do this in English. That's great.
thank you so much for coming. I mean, and if you want to try a little bit of Italian, you can come to our Telegram group. So you learn a little bit in
I'm
the
sure I
Power
will
BI
learn a
world
lot there. Oh yeah,
Italian.
oh yeah, would be amazing. All right. Yeah, so today we're going to talk about why dashboards are dead. And this is maybe a shocking statement, right? And I especially chose this meme cover image to do that really shocking statement thing where people turn their heads like, what did you just say? Because usually when I speak, I'm speaking to Power BI audiences or Fabric audiences that are used to work with Power BI dashboards and reports. So then telling them that Power BI dashboards are dead is something that at least stops the scroll, as we say, and it is really a nice way, I think, to get some attention. All right. So in this session, we are going to spend maybe 45 or 50 minutes looking at why dashboards might be dead and why they might not be dead just yet. But what we're going to do is we're going to look at Fabric data agents. Now, before we start, I'll do a quick intro about myself. This will be the most boring slide that we have today in this deck, so bear with me, please. But there are some credentials as to why I am speaking here for you guys tonight. So I've been a data consultant in the Microsoft world since 2013, so that's now almost 13 years actually. I've done quite a lot of different technologies within the Microsoft BI world. So I started out in Power Pivot, then I did SQL Server, then in 2015 Power BI came out. I started doing Power BI. I went back into back-end data warehousing from the SQL Server background into Azure SQL, and now these days, I think for the past 2 years, 2.5 years, I'm only doing Fabric at this moment. I'm a partner at a small consulting firm in the Netherlands, so English is not my native language, Dutch is. I'm a partner at a small consulting firm. We do data and AI software and consultancy for mainly small and medium businesses. And last year, I got my Microsoft Data Platform MVP award for speaking at conferences and user groups like this, for blogging, for YouTubing, and sharing knowledge with the community. And other than that, I'm a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu purple belt. I do weightlifting and I do running because if I just sit at the laptop all day, like 10 or 12 hours a day, that's not good for my health, right? So I like to keep moving, and especially for this little guy, I'm a father and a husband. So he is taking up my time as well, and I need to be fit because in a few years he will be running faster than I am if I do not practice anything. All right, so if you want to connect with me, you can scan the QR codes, and maybe we have some links on the meetup pages as well. But you can scan the QR codes for my LinkedIn page or my YouTube page. I think the YouTube one will be going on later on in the slide deck as well. So that would be an awesome way to follow me, and especially on the YouTube, I just crossed 500 subscribers, so it's still a very small channel, but I'm super happy that I see it growing every week, and that's very helpful for me to drive more and more video productions. Now, the slides that I'm going to show you today and some of the code samples, prompt samples in this case, because we're going to look at AI, will be on my public GitHub. I will be uploading them to this account here, Bas Land, that's my name, /presentations. Should be easy to find. I think you go then to 2026 and then to the session name, so that should be all right. And I've given this session before in Vienna and in Tallinn, so I think the slides should be already somewhere here on my GitHub. So if you want to look before I get the chance to upload them, then you can do so by looking at either Vienna or Tallinn. And then of course you can check my blog and my YouTube account called That Fabric Guy. So let's look at what are Fabric data agents, because what we've seen in the past year is that, or not the past year, but in the past couple of years actually, is that generative AI has been really blowing up. Everybody is doing Copilot and ChatGPT. Claude is very popular these days, and that's really the first wave of AI, or the first major yeah, maybe let's call it a wave of AI, where that first generation is just a chatbot where you talk to and you get an answer back, and you can really help, or they can really help you build dashboards, build scripts, write documentation, and do all these productivity tasks for you. But you're still talking to a chatbot. You get an answer back. You have to copy paste, and you have to do stuff with it. Um, it would be very helpful if you can use that AI model to analyze your data for you. Because maybe you know what you want to analyze, you can build a Power BI dashboard, right? But maybe you do not know what you want to analyze. And then in that case, you might want to ask somebody that knows a lot about your data and say, tell me, why is my revenue lower than last month? And then that very knowledgeable person can tell you, actually, because it's reasons A, B, and C, your revenue is actually lower. And then you have a follow-up question and another question and another question. So that is something that Fabric Data Agents is really good at. Is it is replacing that colleague that knows a lot about your data, and it is working like any Gen AI model, like Copilot, like ChatGPT, but with the context of your actual data model. So that is really what a Fabric Data Agent is. It is a chatbot that knows a lot about your data and that can help you answer questions on your own data sets. So why do we then say that dashboards are dead? A dashboard can only answer pre-defined questions. So if you think of a new question that the dashboard developer did not anticipate, it will be very difficult to get an answer. And maybe if you do a good dashboard design with dashboard analysis and report and all these different angles that you can look at your data, there might be some things that you can do in order to find answers in your data set, in your dashboard. But usually a dashboard tells a predefined story. It will tell the story of some kind of value over time, and then you can drill in and then you can see it by different dimensions, and then you can drill in further and you can see the individual transactions and so on. Oops, there I clicked a little bit too early. This is a very repeatable process that you're usually going through. So if your users are looking at, I don't know, revenue reporting every week, then a dashboard is a very good choice, because you have this very repeatable process. You put in the effort just once to build a very nice Power BI dashboard, and then your users can start looking at it every day or every week without you touching the dashboard as a developer. There is, however, a lot of upfront effort that you need to put in. As you all know, as Power BI developers and consultants, Power BI takes a lot of time. It is very easy to build something in Power BI, but it takes a lot of time to build something good in Power BI. So the upfront effort and initial investment is quite high. Another thing that is maybe a downside of traditional Power BI is there's little context, or maybe no context at all. It is very difficult to get deeper understanding of your data as an end user. Maybe that doesn't know the data model, that doesn't know all the dimensions that are connected to your data model. It is very difficult to get additional context. So if you did not put in all these drill throughs and explainers and so on in your Power BI report, there will not be that much things that the user can do to actually deeper understand the story that you're trying to tell with your dashboard. And it is very hard to do discovery. So getting new insights that you do not anticipate in advance will be quite difficult, because again, you're telling this fixed story that the different pages in your dashboard that your user is flowing through. Now let's enter our data agents. So what do we get? We get an interface to work with our data. It's actually a chat interface, so we can write in natural language, in English in this case, we can write a question and we can get back an answer. This is just the same as if you were talking to a colleague. So this colleague in this case is very knowledgeable, it is very quick, it can work 24/7, it's never sick, and it always knows the latest state of your data. So whenever new data is coming in into your data warehouse, your data lakes, your semantic models, this colleague immediately understands everything about that data. There is very little effort upfront to set up this data agent. So with the dashboard, you have to create a data warehouse, and you have to create a semantic model, and then you have to create a dashboard. And on the visual layer, the dashboard layer, you might spend maybe on the low end a few hours, and on the upper end maybe a few days or even weeks to build a really good Power BI dashboard. I know it takes a lot of time, because I've built quite a lot in the past, and I'm sure that you all understand how much time you can spend in building a really good Power BI dashboard. With a data agent, the effort is really minimal, and after a few slides, I will show you in a demo how you can actually set up a data agent that is quite good at answering questions on your data with very little effort. So within minutes or maybe an hour, you have a really good model that can start working for your users immediately. There is, however, some importance that we have to go through, and that is that your setup and instructions need to be in place. Otherwise, you are just talking to a generic data model, to a generic AI, a large language model, and those two do not really give you very good answers. So you have to tell the model, the AI model in this case, how you want your answers served and what you want it to focus on. That's quite important. Um, and then what is really good as well is something that I was quite amazed by is how much general knowledge and general context about the world around us these AI models know. I mean, you're all probably aware if you ask ChatGPT or Copilot or Claude something about I don't know the COVID lockdowns from a few years ago, it will know a lot about that. It will know when it happened, what exactly happened, what was the impact on the world, etc. And bringing that general knowledge about the world around us into conversations we have with our data is really powerful. So in the demo I'm going to show you, it's a New York City taxi data set. It's a data set that I'm pretty sure you've seen before. Microsoft uses it a lot to do demos, and other bloggers and speakers like me are using it as well because it's a free open source data set that you can download and work with. And what you can see in that data set is that in March 2019, the number of taxi rides goes down sharply. Now, we all know why that is. But if you start asking the computer, why is that? I don't know. I just see that the number is going down. But with data agents, actually, it understands the world around us, and it understands that there is more than just our data set. So it will very confidently and very quickly tell you that this lockdown happened, why it happened, when it happened, and that it aligns perfectly with the data that we're seeing. So this must be the case. And that context, I think, is really powerful to have in your analysis. Now, maybe data agents are not a replacement for dashboards. So they're really good at data discovery. They're good for interactive querying. That means I write a question, I get an answer. I write a follow-up question, I get an answer, and so on and so on. And that it can do all of that with very minimal setup. However, there is no deterministic repeatability. And this is something that is quite tricky. So if I have an analysis I want to run every week or every day, then I want to put in some input and I want to get out the same output. I want deterministic repeatability and not a probabilistic AI answer that can be different every time I ask the same question. So that is a downside. So my advice would be if you have a question that you need answered every day or every week, you write a dashboard. If you want something that you use for data discovery and interactive querying, you use the data agent. Also something to be aware of, and the models are getting better and better and better, but AI hallucinations are a thing that we have to be aware of. We have to test our models, we have to validate the responses that we get, because AI can be very confident in its answers, and even if those answers are completely wrong, it will be super confident and will tell you, yes, 1 equals 2. I'm definitely sure. And then you will tell it, no, that's not the case, and then it says, you're right, it actually 1 equals 1. So these hallucinations are they are maybe funny if you're working with ChatGPT. If you are using these analyses to run your business, they can be very dangerous and scary. So we have to be aware of those. Now, which data sources can we use in a Fabric data agent? We can basically use all of the different storage engines that we have in Microsoft Fabric. The main one being the Power BI semantic model. This is the model that I like the most to be used as the data source for my Fabric data agents. Why? In the semantic model, we can put in a lot of information about our data set. It understands tables and columns and measures and relationships between tables and so on. And that is it's a very good data set to be reporting on, whether it's Power BI or whether it is a data agent or an AI chatbot. So the semantic model would be usually my preferred way to get data into the data agent. However, I can see that also Lakehouse and Warehouse with maybe more granular data, maybe a wider data set that we have extracted from source systems but not yet put into the semantic model, it can give a lot of context on our data as well. So usually it might make sense to put also your Lakehouse or Warehouse data into your data agents. Now, KQL databases for streaming data and the ontology, which is quite new and to be fair, nobody's really using, can be used as data sources as well. And you can use a maximum of 5 data sources at the same time. Now we see 5 different types of data sources here. We can use 5 data sources. That does not mean that you can use these 5. You can also use 5 different semantic models as the data sources for your agent, or 2 lake houses and 1 warehouse and 2 semantic models, right? So we can use 5 sources out of these 5 types that we have. In practice, I would be trying to use Power BI semantic model all the time and then do a fallback to lakehouse or warehouse, depending on where my underlying data is living. So the process that we're going through for Fabric data agents. When we start writing in this chat interface, we will write a question in natural language in English. So the user asks a question. Then the agent will be analyzing, as large language models do, it will be analyzing and tokenizing that piece of text that the user puts in. Those input tokens are being processed. And the agent understands natural language. It also understands your data source and it will try to match the two. So if you have more than one data source connected to your data agent, it will try to select the most appropriate data source. Maybe you have one semantic model and one lakehouse connected. Based on the question, it will do a guess. Yes, it is a guess. It is a probabilistic process. It will do a guess as to which of those data sources would be the best to answer the question. Then when it picked the proper data source to analyze, it will not load all of that data into the AI model to start answering questions. No, it will actually generate a query. So it will use a process called natural language to query, and it can be NL to SQL or NL to DAX or NL to KQL, depending on the underlying data source, in order to actually create a query. That query is then validated for accuracy, for permissions, for row level security, object level security, and all that. And then the query will be executed. So the data agent will actually run the query that you asked it to run, basically. So your English question will be translated into a query that will be run against the selected data source. Now, this validation step that is in between here is very important. And if you've ever try to create queries using natural language and large language models, you will know that validation will be very important. If you go into ChatGPT today, you say, okay, this is my data model. I have these dimensions, these fact tables. Now write me a DAX query or write me a SQL query. Then the model will probably give you something that is quite okay. If you copy and paste it, there might be some mistakes in there. There might be typos. There might be assumptions by the model that you have a certain table with a certain name that might not be the case. So this validation step is really important. You can compare this validation step to you actually uploading a very highly detailed description of your data set, of your data model into ChatGPT, and then uploading the query and then asking ChatGPT, can you validate this query? Do all the fields exist? Are the names correct? And so on. So that validation is really important, and this is really the agentic behavior that Fabric data agents are going through. It is not just creating some query and then executing it. It is checking its own work and then circling back if there's any errors. Then when the query is executed, the result set of the query, so the table that this query is generating, is being fed back into the model. So while the data agent AI's model does not have access to your underlying data, it gets access to the query results, and then the LLM will actually summarize the results for you and present it to you as the user in a concise summary, and then you can ask it follow-up questions. All right, so we ask a question, the model picks the data source, it generates a query, it validates a query, it will execute and then summarize for you. That is the high-level process that we're going through. And now with AI, we are all aware that checks and balances are very important. We have a few things that we need to check for. The first one is ensuring that user access is respected by the AI model. So we spent a lot of time designing BI systems with Fabric and Power BI that are not only giving a lot of insights into our data, and not only are very fast and efficient to run and all the things that we are good at as data professionals, we also want it to be secure, and we want to make sure that the right persons are looking at the right data, and that row level security is respected, and object level security is respected, because we have information security rules and regulations, maybe depending on the industry that you're in, that we have to work with, and we cannot allow users to see data that they're not allowed to see. So these checks and balances are really important, and the model adheres to these checks and balances. There's also some responsible AI checks. There might be things that an AI model will refuse to do. So if you start asking it to do anything that is illegal or highly immoral, it will not do that for you. It will not tell you how to make drugs or how to steal something, or it will simply refuse to do that. And I believe, I'm not quite sure, but I believe that Microsoft actually did not put these responsible checks into Fabric Data Agents, but that the underlying LLM, the underlying model that is being used by Fabric Data Agents, which is GPT-5, by the way, so the same model that is running ChatGPT is also running data agents. That model, of course, comes with a lot of responsible AI checks. So GPT will not allow you to do anything illegal whatsoever. So data agents will also not allow you to do anything illegal. And then the last thing that is really, really important is that all the querying that the model does is read-only querying. We can simply not allow the model to write data into a data set, a lakehouse, a warehouse, or a database, because we do not know what the actual accuracy of the model is, right? Again, we have a probabilistic algorithm that will probably generate something that is quite okay, but maybe not really good. So read-only querying is really, really important, and Microsoft has solved for this by creating read-only access between data agents and data sources. So that is actually that helps you sleep better at night, maybe, that you know that even though your users are going to ask the agent to do all kinds of crazy things, they will not be able to change the data in your data platform. They will only be able to read it. All right, we're almost getting to the demo. There are, however, a few prerequisites that we need to check before we can actually start building a data agent in Microsoft Fabric. So the first thing is capacity requirements. We do need a Fabric capacity or a Power BI Premium capacity in order to run a data agent. And I believe that trial capacities for Microsoft Fabric will not work with AI workloads. Okay, I've spoken to Microsoft about this because if you do a trial, you get an F64, or actually you get an FT64 for a Fabric trial. So you would say that an F64 has plenty of compute power to do AI stuff, and it does. But Microsoft simply says, well, in our data centers, we do not have spare GPUs lying around, right? So GPUs are very hard to get by these days because of the rise of AI, and we simply do not have the GPUs to give away for free to everybody that wants to do AI on a trial capacity. So you actually need to be on a paid capacity. You can be on the smallest capacity that we have today, which is the F2 capacity. That is only maybe 160 euros a month or something if you are in a reserved instance. So you can be on a very cheap capacity, but you do need to be on a paid capacity. Okay, so Power BI Pro, Power BI Premium per user, Fabric trial, it all doesn't work. You need to be on a paid capacity. Then, if we are using semantic models as our data source, we need to have enabled the XMLA endpoints. Okay, that's so that the model can actually send queries to the semantic model, so that the data agent can send queries to the data model. We need to have XMLA enabled, and I believe by default these are actually enabled. If you disable them in your tenant settings or in wherever, these queries might fail. And then you need to have cross-geo AI processing enabled in your tenant settings, because Microsoft cannot guarantee that the processing of your AI will happen in the same capacity, in the same region of your Azure data centers as the rest of your tenants. So you need to have enabled cross-geo processing in order for Microsoft to shift around the workloads. And that is something that you have to figure out if that is something you are willing to do and are allowed to do, depending on regulations, rules, and internal policies in your organization. You have to figure out whether this is something that you have to do or not. But in the end, you need to enable this setting in order to be using Fabric Data Agents. And then it is demo time. So I've spent 20 minutes now talking about agents. Let's actually look at them. Let's go here, and I have quite a large screen here, so I zoomed in a bit for you guys. Um, let me paint a picture for you here, and let me know if the screen is not showing Microsoft Fabric. So somebody in the chat, let us know if there's something that is not going okay.
There are a couple of comments
Okay,
from the
let's
audience.
let's take a few
Not
minutes right now to go through the comments.
all right. So the first one is if you can share your GitHub URL. I already pasted the github.com/Basland. I think it is
Yes,
that one, right? All
yes.
right.
GitHub.com slash
Bash.
was
Yeah, yeah,
was
that one. That is the one that I pasted. All right,
that should
perfect.
that should be the one. Yeah, yeah.
That is the one. And the second one is from Giuseppe. Let me show it. So Giuseppe joined a little bit later. So he's asking if you can repeat, if you already said it, when is it useful to create a fabric data agent against the data source? Mean if it is something for us or it is also beneficial for the end user?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So the question is, when is it beneficial? Just for us as the developers or consultants, or also for the end user? It is very beneficial for the end user to create a Fabric data agent if your user wants to be able to do data discovery. So if they want to ask questions they do not know upfront. Okay, so if you know your question upfront, maybe I know what is my revenue by month and by customer, then that is a question that I can think about right now. Then I can build a dashboard, and then I can start looking at the dashboard every day or every week, right? If I do not know the questions I might have, so maybe I wake up, I see an email, and I think, okay, let me figure out something in my data set, but I do not know what, then the data agent is actually a really good way to do data discovery there. So this will definitely help your end users if they are doing this more interactive querying, this discovery process with their data set. I hope that
It
that
is
answers the
more
question.
natural chatting with your, like you said, with a colleague that already knows the data.
Yeah, exactly. So if you have a colleague that knows a lot about, I don't know, the finance process or the sales
Yeah, you
process,
can
you can
fire him right
completely.
now and talk with
Yeah,
the
exactly.
data agent.
Well, in the past, maybe you would call your colleague. Can you tell me what's going on with this order? And he would tell, okay, it's this and that. You can now ask your data agent, right? So
Exactly.
that is
No
something
need
that's
for
really
the
good.
colleague. Yeah, that was all. We had
All right,
just a
perfect.
question.
Thank you. Thank you. Good
Thank you, Bash.
questions. Keep them coming. Okay, so if we can see the screen right here, I zoomed in, so it should be
Yeah, it should
readable.
be good. Yeah, we can see.
If it's not readable, let me know. So what do we have right here? I've prepared a data agent that I will go through and show you guys, and then I will create a new one actually in order to show how easy it is to create a new agent. Okay, so I have two things in here that I want to show. That is the data source setup, and then some of the instructions that we put into the model. So we have two things. We have a gold lakehouse in here, and usually we build our data warehouses using Fabric Lakehouse as the storage layer. And in this gold lakehouse, we have created quite a lot of tables. I mean, this is a demo set on the taxis, as I mentioned before. And as you can see here, I checked a few of the tables, not all of them, just a couple of them. What did I check in here? It is a fact taxi data table that is partitioned by year, month, and taxi type. That partitioning you can forget, it's not important for today, but it was for another demo on optimizing large data sets. But this is the fact table that contains every individual taxi trip that has happened in New York since 2009, all the way until the end of 2024. So this is a big, big, big data set that contains almost 4 billion transactions. Now, those 4 billion transactions, they are all related to certain dimensions. We have the dates dimension, we have drop-off locations and pickup locations. So from a pickup location, we travel to the drop-off location. We have taxi types that describes whether our taxi is a yellow taxi in Manhattan, a green taxi in any of the other boroughs. Maybe it's an Uber or a Lyft, or maybe it's a private driver kind of deal. That will be described in our taxi type dimension. And then we have a time dimension, of course, that contains, I think, the minutes of the day, so that we can also analyze on what part of the day is more busy than other parts of the day. All right, so this is a very simple dimensional data model, right? We have a fact table with a few 4 or 5 dimensions, five. surrounding that single fact table. So that should be quite straightforward. Now what we do have also in here is a semantic model. I've named this model the taxi data agent model. Maybe that's not the best name, but it doesn't really matter what we call it right now. And as you can see in here, we have a few tables, and I deliberately chose to put in fewer tables in here. So two things I've done. For one, I've created an aggregate of the taxi trips data. I do not want 4 billion rows of data in my semantic model, so I've aggregated this to a daily level. So instead of individual taxi rides, it's now aggregated by day, and it is aggregated by pickup location. So for every single day in the data set, we can find that on a certain location, a taxi trip was started. And then we have aggregated information in here that tells us things like the number of passengers, the number of trips that is in that aggregate record, the trip distance in miles, the average trip distance per ride, the average passengers per trip, and so on. So we can do some kinds of aggregated analysis on this data set. And why do we have this two-layer approach in here? Most of the questions that we might have can be answered by an aggregated, pre-calculated data source. We do not need to go into a 4 billion line database in order to ask questions like, what month is the busiest month, right? It doesn't make sense to do that on a trip by trip level. So we can aggregate, we can create the measures, we can create the relationships between tables, and that will help the model to give us an answer a little bit quicker and a little bit cheaper. Maybe there are questions that we ask, such as what was the tip amount that the passenger tipped the driver for taxis that started at a certain hour of the day. If that is our question, then it cannot be found in this aggregated semantic model. So then we have to make sure that the model, the data agent, goes back into the lakehouse, into the detail level data in order to retrieve an answer. But we have to understand that these questions might be a little bit slower to answer and might be more expensive to analyze by the model. It might use more tokens and more time to actually give you an answer. So that is one. That's the data sources that we see on the left side of the screen. Then on the big center area of the screen that we have right here in the middle, we see a data source description, and we are actually now in our gold level instructions. So what this means is we can put in a setup with agent instructions, and we can put in for lakehouses and warehouses, but in this case a lakehouse, we can put in data source instructions and example queries. For semantic models, we cannot put in any setup because a semantic model is very easy to read. It has tables with relationships and measures, and that is all pretty self-sufficient. A lakehouse is just a bunch of tables, so we have to tell the agent how to work with those tables, right? First of all, the agent instructions. These are on the level of the agent itself. So overall for this agent, these are the rules and instructions and guidelines that you have to work with. Now, what Microsoft allows you to do is put in a markdown format for documentation. I created a very short explanation in here. I only used 1,000 out of the 15,000 characters that we have. And I've told the model what is my objective, what is the data source that we have, what is some key terminology, because that will help the model understand that if I talk about give me the green taxi rides, it will understand that the green is actually a type of taxi. It will also I also given it response guidelines. So I told it, for example, the model should give context with the numbers. Don't just give a list of volume by month, but briefly describe the trend you're seeing, the comparisons, and so on. Keep it brief but interesting. You can really use this as a prompt that you would put into ChatGPT or Copilot. Okay, but then again, this is a piece of prompt that is injected as a system prompt. So with every question that you ask, these instructions are sent to the model as well, together with the actual question, the actual prompt that you're putting in. And then some handling of common topics. This is something that Microsoft advises you to put in. I've not put in anything right now, but what you can put in there is very common topics that your users might be talking about. You can put it in here in order to narrow down the topics that the agent is looking for. So that might help it to give answers more quickly and more accurately. Okay, that's it on agent instructions. That is on the overall behavior of your Fabric data agent. Now, for lakehouse and warehouse, we can put in data source descriptions and data source instructions. The description is just that, it's just a piece of metadata that you can give to the agent in order to have it understand what this data source is doing. So maybe you don't have a semantic model and a lakehouse, maybe you have two lakehouses. And then it needs to understand for what type of information do I pick one lakehouse and for what type of information do I pick the other lakehouse. And we can use the data source description in order to give the agent some context to help it pick the correct answer or to pick it to have it pick the correct data source. So in here I've said the Lakehouse Gold contains granular and high volume data on taxi trips in New York City between 2009 and 2024. This gives a little bit of context. If I ask it to give me the 2005 taxi trips, it will not have to create a query, then load the query, then see that there's no data, and then tell me that there's no data. By this data source description, it already knows there is no 2005 data, so it can tell me immediately, hey Bas, there is no 2005 data, I started 2009. I also told it that the lake houses data on individual trip records and that there's a few different dimensions and things that it can answer me. Now on the data source instructions, we have basically the same thing. So we go in here, we see that we have a markdown file again, so this structured text format where we put in some general knowledge, where we can put in information on that the model can actually use its general outside knowledge to be part of the answers. I've put in table descriptions, so for every table in the model, I've written that what kind of meaning it has. So I can imagine that a model does not understand what means DO and what is PU. So I've written that it means drop off and pick up, and that it is a location and that it can be aggregated to zones and boroughs. All right. For taxi types, same thing, taxi type dimensions with some examples of taxi types. And this really helps us to give the model some context on what is it actually looking at. Now, I also told the model that this dataset is really large and slow. It should use the semantic model taxi data agent where possible. And this is something that helps the model pick the correct data sources. One last thing that we can do for lakehouse and warehouse data sources is example queries. And this is really cool. If you know, I mean, by definition, you do not know the questions that a user is going to ask the agent because it is exploratory, it is data discovery, right? So we do not know what question will be asked, but we can maybe predict the types of questions that will be asked. Now, what you can do here is because the agent is actually not analyzing the data, the agent is generating a query that can analyze the data for you. We can tell the agent how to write queries for certain questions that we might ask. So I've come up with two different questions. One is in 2023, what are the most common pickup to drop off zone pairs with trip count, average distance, and average tip? And then you can put in a SQL query that lets you answer that question. Now, because I can write SQL queries, I can actually create this query to answer this question. Now, because I clicked in the query here, it starts to validate it. That's a bit annoying. Let's not do that again. And now the model knows that not only is this the type of question that I will be answering, it also now understands my data model because I have written a few joins in here. I've written what is the key of that join. So from this pickup location ID, I can go to pu.location ID. And if I have any other questions that might be combining my fact table with my pickup location dimension, from this query, it understands what is the relationship between the two. It does not have to guess anymore. So that helps to give the model more context. And of course, you can put in any kinds of crazy questions that you might ask, including the queries that you use in order to answer those questions. And the more you can put into the agent here, the more context there will be for the model to actually give you really good answers. All right. Those were the instructions. Let's start talking to our agent for a bit and see what's going on. So tell me which years were the busiest for trips originating in Manhattan. Now, I think this is a question that can be done through the semantic model. So now, indeed, the agent is talking to the semantic model database. And by clicking here, in a few seconds, we can actually validate the query that the agent is generating. It has now been it's now done analyzing. It gave a ranking of the years because that's what we asked. There's not a lot of context in here, but then again, I think there is. I mean, there is some context in here. Trips peaked in 2018 with 198 million rides. Then a decline, pandemic years, and then a recovery 2022 and beyond. Okay, that's actually really good.
Sorry, Bash, can you
Yep.
ask him just to see if it hallucinates or not? Are you sure? I think 2014 was one of the busiest years.
This is really good. I like when
Let's see.
this type of questions come from you guys. Yeah. All right, let's see what it's doing. While it's trying to answer this, let's scroll up a little bit. This is something I wanted to show you guys. That if you are actually okay, there we are. Um, if you want to see whether your model has created a good answer, you can see here that there's one step completed. You can see these reasoning steps that the model is going through, right? So you can open that, then you can see that it analyzed the taxi agent semantic model. So that is already 1 point for data agent. It picked the correct data source for this question. And I did not tell it to rank the years from most to least busy. This is something that the model rewrote for me, right? So it is also putting already in here the format of the data that it wants to show me. And then if we click on this arrow here, we can actually see the query that the model has been generated. So we have been filtering our dim locations to the borough of Manhattan. We have been filtering on calendar, oh no, we've been aggregating on calendar year, put in the Manhattan filter, and we're looking at the number of trips measure that we have pre-calculated in DAX, or not pre-calculated, but predefined in DAX. And then it's actually running evaluate in order to give me a result back. And we get our raw data in here, which is basically all the trips by year, and then ranked, so we can see that this is indeed the most busiest year that we had. So that's actually really good that the data agent is showing all of this so that we can validate that the right thing is being done. Now we've asked if 2014 was the busiest year, and it says based on the available aggregate taxi trip data, that was not the case. It clearly shows 2018. It even tells us that some of the numbers, and that 2014 had only 154 million trips.
That's great.
It did not go anywhere. It did not go back to the data set, right? You can see that there is no steps completed in here. Why not? We ask it something that is already in the context of our conversation, because we have this completed step right here, and we have the result set right here that was coming to the agent. It can see that 2014 has 154 million taxi trips. So it can simply pull data out of the context of earlier questions. Another way that we can show that is saying, okay, in the busiest year, what was the month with the lowest average tip amount? And now I'm really trying to trip up the model, because what I'm doing right now is I'm not telling it to look for 2018. I'm telling it to look for the busiest year that is somewhere in the context. And I'm telling it to look at the tip amount. And tip amount is not in the semantic model that it has been working with in the previous conversation. It has now, I'm now asking it to look at the gold lake house. So let's see, it was quite fast in 15 seconds. This is actually quite fast. In the busiest year for Manhattan taxi trip, 2018. That's correct. That's something that we saw in the earlier questions. We see that the month with the lowest average tip was August, average tip of 73 cents per trip. And it gives some context, some trends. It's slightly below July and December. Let's see what it did. It analyzed the gold lake house. Okay, so that's really good. We validated now that indeed this question was pointed to the correct data source. And then again, we can open up the query that it generated. And as you can understand that if you go to a semantic model, you write a DAX query. If you go to lakehouse or warehouse, you write a SQL query. And here we can see and validate whether that the query that it has created is actually correct. We see that it is using the fact table, joining to the dates on these fields, joining to locations on these fields, and that all looks all right to me. The tip mount should not be empty. The borough should be Manhattan. So in here you can see that it is actually creating um, the proper analysis basically that we need. And in here we see that example queries are being pulled into the conversation because that will tell the model a lot about our data set. So the example queries that I've just shown you a few minutes ago, they are being pulled into the context here as well. And now you can see that by the model is actually using the same type of aliases that I'm putting in there as well. I thought of calling this table f so that we can do f.pickupdate instead of putting in the entire table name, right? So those are things that are coming from the sample queries. So this is actually really cool, and we can see that within just a few seconds, we can actually have the model answer questions that I have not asked it before, and even with questions from you guys, we can see that it actually works, and that we can see that in those busy years, we can then get that from the semantic model, start asking follow-up questions, and that can be answered by a different data set. Which if I were to create a Power BI report in order to answer these questions, it might have cost me maybe an hour at the very least, and maybe a day or maybe a couple of days to get it really good. So we can see here that if we just keep going back and forth with the AI, it is really helping me to find trends in my data, to analyze my data. Now, there are a few things that we need to be aware of, and I'm sure that Microsoft is also improving on these models on a daily basis. So what I've done in the past is I've created a new data agent. That's very easy to show you guys. We go here to new item, then to all items, and then to data agent. We call it PBIUG Italy. And there is our new data agent. This is a brand new data agent. Let's skip the tour for now, and let's start by adding data sources. Now we can do Azure AI search, or we can do pick a data source ourselves. Let's pick the semantic model for now. There we are. This is fine. And let's do all of the tables. And now without putting any agent instructions whatsoever in here, this is just a template that Microsoft puts in. We can delete that. And there it's back again. Okay, so apparently the template cannot be deleted. Now from here we can ask what check in the data when the pandemic hit. Show with numbers. I created this typo on purpose because for an AI model, it really doesn't matter if you make typos. You are not writing formal emails to colleagues that you need to spell check. The model will understand what I mean with this.
Even if you type in Spanish, in Italian, whatever language you want, right?
I think this is English only at the moment, but I'm not 100% sure.
Give it a try.
I can give it a try in Dutch. Let's do that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Different than English.
Anyway, we see that there's a clear impact on taxi trip numbers. Here's how you can spot it, blah, 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 blah. Okay. I just ask it, okay, show me what day the pandemic started and how many trips we had on that day. And actually, it
Yeah.
is
Okay.
actually understanding this Dutch question. So it seems that it is actually multilingual. That is really cool. I mean, ChatGPT is multilingual. Definitely, it is really good in other languages than English. So this was to be expected.
Let's see if
Um,
the answer is in Dutch or in English.
I mean, the answer is in Dutch as well,
Ah,
so this is
yeah.
really cool. It tells me that the first day on which a significant lower amount of taxi rides was visible was 15 February 2020. There were 1.16 million taxi rides, which is a clearly downhill compared to the average of the previous week. That is what this is saying. And this actually makes sense that in February we saw the numbers go down, right? So I think the lockdown itself happened in March. In February, the first effects were being seen. So this is actually really cool. Now we did not put any other things in here. So this is just an AI model, and we can start asking it questions. Can you this is a fun one. When I gave this demo the first time, I think a couple of months ago, it actually worked. So I really hope that Microsoft did not put in any guardrails into the data the data agents, because I really hope that the model will be tripped up by my question. Um, I want the model to give me an apple pie recipe. And if I ask ChatGPT to give me an apple pie recipe, it will definitely do that. So I really hope that the model will do this as well. And there we go. So we actually got the data agent to give us a recipe. This is amazing. And this means that we are indeed not just talking to our data set, but we are talking to GPT-5, to a large language model that knows a lot about the world, that can generate texts for us, right? However, are we really willing to spend our expensive fabric compute power on our users that will be creating lyrics for songs and write their text messages for them and do apple pie recipes and so on? No, we do not want to do that. So we have to put in some agent instructions. Um, let's say this model is for taxi analysis only. Please stay on topic. If the user veers off course, and that should be off course, nudge the user back to taxi analysis and tell why, because it is very expensive. Suggest the user to go to their personal AI assistant for off-topic stuff. All right, let's see what is going on right now, because we can now say, okay, this is very expensive to do on our corporate environment. Okay, also do a blueberry muffin recipe, please. Now, I hope that the model will actually listen to us and listen to the agent instructions and tell us off. And there we are. So this environment is designed exclusively for taxi data analysis. It's expensive to run. I cannot provide recipes or general information in here. Ask your personal AI assistant for recipe help. So what we've shown here is that, yes, it is super easy to create a new data agent. I just clicked it together in 1 minute. I gave it a name. I put in the semantic model as our data source. And then it works. I mean, we can scroll up and we can see in here that it actually works. It actually went through writing all the DAX. It has been doing everything in here without me telling it to do that, right? I've just put in the semantic model that already existed, started asking questions, and it was then doing all this analysis for us. So this is really powerful. However, it is very important that we put in these guardrails, because we can see that giving questions like this, it will work. It will cost us tokens. Those tokens are expensive. So it is really important that we put in our agent instructions in the right way. And then when we do so, it will not give us recipes or song texts or whatever anymore. Are there any questions on the demo? Is there anything you guys would like to see?
We have one question from Giuseppe again. No, it is this one. So it is regarding the configuration of the agent, and he's asking if it is the same as Copilot 365, where you add the title, description, instruction, knowledge, those table those tables inside Fabric, and suggested prompts. I don't know.
So
He's asking if it is similar to Copilot 365. Do you know Copilot 365?
I've worked a little bit with Copilot for 365. I've not worked with Copilot in relationship to Fabric. So if
Mm.
there is a Copilot Fabric integration, then yes, this will probably be very similar. And I know there's been a lot of changes to data agents lately. So I know that you can put in Fabric data agents as one of the agents that can that can power your other AI stuff within the Microsoft world. So I know that you can put in agents into Microsoft Teams, and that means that you can have a Teams chat with this
Mm.
Fabric data agent, right? So I can imagine that this will probably be also integrated with Copilot, but I've not done that myself, so I'm not 100% sure.
That would be amazing. So, so far we have seen text, but
Yes.
I wonder if it is able to produce some charts or images or even a dashboard.
um, the official answer is today it will not allow you to do that.
No. Mhm.
I hope in the future it will. I'm not sure, but I can imagine that loads of people wanted to generate charts and maybe even dashboards. It might make sense to do that,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I'm not sure whether that's something that is being worked on. Maybe it's on the Fabric roadmap. I don't know. That's
maybe.
something we could check. But today it will not allow you to do that. No.
Databricks, I know that it's already doing it with BI Genie, which is
Hmm.
this data agent, the same thing. So Giuseppe is asking, sorry, last one. He's asking this time, when you publish, how the end user uses it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So no, we need to publish first. So we hit publish. Do we want to publish it to the agent? Ah, so there it is. So do we want to publish it to the agent store for Microsoft 365 Copilot? We can
Here
do
it
yes.
is.
And then you can pull it from the agent store. So that's actually really cool. So that will be one way to use it. Um, Another way to use it is if we, oh, there we go. If we go here, where is it again? Publishing. This is an API, so you can programmatically work with this as well. You can put in the MCP server as well, so then you can work from your local AI model from Claude or any other AI environment that lets you talk to an MCP server. You can work with that. Um, and let's see, where are we here? This is the one. Then when the user without any admin rights opens this, it will not see this setup. So it can talk in the chat here, just like you can in this Fabric or Power BI window. You can open a Power BI dashboard without the edit button. You can basically do that.
Just
Uh,
chat, and that's it.
it's just chat, yeah. And what I think is the most useful way is putting it either in Teams or in Copilot 365. If you have that license, of course. I mean, in my company we don't, but if you have Copilot, then it might make sense to integrate it too.
Got it. And as an admin, can you see the questions that end user made?
No, unfortunately not.
No.
No,
Okay.
no, no, no. This is something that I actually talked to Microsoft. So as an MVP, you can go to Seattle every year to an MVP summit.
That happened
I
2 weeks ago, I think.
That happened 2 weeks ago. I was there, and this question was asked in one of the sessions to the product people at Microsoft Fabric. It cannot be done at this moment. Um, it was an interesting question though, and I hope they will allow us to do something like that through Purview or something like that.
Because maybe someone has a very expensive question and you want to know who was the person, just to educate them
Yes.
or to punish them as well. Right?
Well,
But
and
you
I
cannot
mean
know.
some and all that is one. Another use case for this is if we have users ask the same question over and over and over, we should make a dashboard,
That is true. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? And then tell those users, if you have a question about this topic, look at the dashboard. Stop using my AI because it's super expensive, right? So that's maybe something that we should be doing. Yeah.
Got it.
Today, I don't think we can, as admins, see the questions now.
BIGINI in Databricks has a feature where the end user can flag an answer if it is wrong, right?
Yeah.
So the admin sees it and
Ah.
corrects it, maybe in the
Oh, that's really cool.
instructions or
Yeah.
something.
we do have the thumbs up, thumbs down here, and we can
Ah, got it.
tell, but you do not tell it to your admin. You tell it to your to Microsoft. What actually went wrong there?
Ah, maybe because the admin just sets an instruction and maybe it gets fixed, maybe it
Yeah,
is pretty straightforward. For example, the blueberry recipe, something like that.
yep.
That would be awesome to have. You know?
That would be really. I agree. That would be really cool, and let's hope that Microsoft will actually allow us to do that.
Yeah, and also copying the Genie from Databricks again.
I mean, that
So final
it
users,
should be doable, right?
yeah, it should be doable. So the last one, BI Genie also has an option that when a final user asks a very technical question, maybe a definition that the AI doesn't know,
Uh-huh.
so a metric, a KPI that the AI doesn't know. So the final user can define that metric for the AI, but it doesn't stay in that chat, but it goes back to the definitions, general definitions for all the people using the AI.
Oh,
Is that
really?
possible to do that here?
Now you have to put it then in the agent instructions or in the data set instructions.
Yeah, I got it. But as a developer,
As an end user, you cannot do that now.
because the one who knows really the business terminology are the end users, not the developer.
Exactly, exactly. But no, as an end user, you cannot write back.
Hmm. Yeah, it wasn't writing back. I mean, you're not overwriting the data. It is
No, not the
just
data, but the
instruction.
instructions or the
Uh,
glossary or that's not something I've seen. No.
so we have the same question again, the one that I was asking, Christine asking, is there a way to understand the question that users are sending to the agents? No,
No,
you cannot know, Christine.
no, we do not know. Maybe in the future, but I don't know if that's something they're going to build. It was a very um, the question was asked multiple times whether we can have it. So
Yeah, I guess
let's
so.
hope they picked up on that.
Let's see. Those were all the questions, Bas.
All right, thank you so much. I think I have a few closing slides. Just these few. Yeah, so just as a little recap, we can use data agents for data discovery. As we have seen, we can go back and forth with the model about our data. And even it doesn't really matter anymore where my data is in the semantic model, in the lakehouse, in the warehouse. We can start asking questions and then follow-up questions wherever my data is that will work. The setup is important because you've seen that if you do not do any setup whatsoever, if you create a new agent without any instructions, it will just give you anything like it is ChatGPT, right? It is literally running ChatGPT in your Fabric environment. So you have to be careful about that. Not because it's really dangerous, but because you can bump through your Fabric capacity quite fast if people are using this for all kinds of stuff that they should be using their Copilot or ChatGPT licenses for, and not your Fabric compute power. So the setup is still important, but you've also seen that the setup is quite easy to do with your instructions and sample queries, and it's not taking you days to do that. It's taking you minutes or maybe an hour to do so. You have to validate responses. That means that if you start asking questions as a developer to test the model, you get an answer that is not really correct or it's picking the wrong data source, then go back into your instructions and put that exact example in your instructions, because that would be giving the model some information. So in the past, when I started doing this demo or preparing this demo, I had an issue with taxi types. I asked it for yellow taxis and how much yellow taxi rides there were, and it did not understand. It said, "Well, I don't see any taxi information, and certainly not for yellow taxis." I said, and then I had to tell it, "No, I mean the taxi type yellow cab, right? So for the Manhattan yellow taxis." And then it understood. So you have to validate the responses that you're getting, especially with a new data agent. Do not trust it blindly. Validate, because the AI will hallucinate sometimes. It is getting really good, especially with GPT-5. It's a really, really powerful model. But still, it might make mistakes, and it will occasionally make mistakes. So don't trust it blindly. And then, if you will follow my YouTube, this will be the main thing for me. As you can see here, I post videos every week on Fabric and Power BI on all kinds of things. So I will put Claude versus ChatGPT if you do vibe coding as a data engineer. I will put in Key Vault. I will put in things on creating dummy data, on Delta Lake, on everything that has anything to do with Microsoft Fabric. And I'm only at 500 something subscribers. So I really want to bump that up. So if you want, follow me there. And I will be super grateful for that. And with that said, thank you so much for being here at this Tuesday evening. I had a pleasure talking to you guys and showing some cool stuff with Fabric Data Agents. I hope you learned something. And if there's any questions, then feel free to ask me.
We did learn. We did learn how to create a recipe for the blueberries or a cake.
Oh, yes.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It is the first time actually that I see this
Okay,
in Fabric, but it is so easy to set it up. I think I'm gonna give it a try. I will see if I can, because it is so easy to do it. So I will give it a try. I'm start
exactly.
using it.
Yep,
Of course, I won't believe it because I'm more a data visualization guy, but I will start using it and compare the results.
that would
Thank you
be
so
awesome.
much, Bas.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It was a pleasure.
We don't have more questions, so I think we are good to go. Thank you again, Bas,
All
and
right.
thank you, everyone.
Enjoy your
Have
evening.
a nice evening, you too. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao. Bye.